Welcome to the Everyday Joy podcast. I'm your host, Ash Owen, and I cannot wait to find moments of joy with you in today's episode.
Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 17, the NIV version.
Now we are back in the studio with the amazing Jen.
Oh,
Jen, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. Pretty good.
Good. I'm glad. Now, I don't know about you, but we are in Christmas season.
Yes.
Now, I have two questions. One, have you put up your Christmas tree?
100% yes.
Great. Two, have you done all your Christmas shopping?
They're coming.
That's impressive.
So I've ordered them.
Okay, great.
Is that a yes?
I would say that's a yes, if they're on their way. I haven't purchased a single Christmas present. And time is not my friend.
No, not right now.
Speaking of Christmas and buying presents and spending money, we're looking at this verse in 1 Timothy 6, verse 17. Now, Jen, what are your first thoughts around this verse?
This is my current season right now, and I feel like a lot of people, like yourself, every single person I know is probably in this season right now. Money is so tight. I mean, everything is more expensive. So my first impression, it's like, okay, you know what? God knew this. This is why he's telling us this now. This is why he's putting this in my heart. We're in this such a weird economic situation, climate, thing. Shouldn't be saying thing when I'm an accountant. I'll take that back. That's okay. And so I know that we can't depend on our wealth here. So my first impressions, don't depend on our wealth here. Don't depend on our earthly things. We have to depend on God.
I love that. That's so good. Now, I guess for me, when I read it, it's one of those things where, I don't know, I know that God will provide for me, but sometimes when you're in the thick of it, when you're in the thick of being like, I have no money to spend on these things, or I just can't, or there's always that awkward, oh my gosh, I have to wait till next pay, which is fine, which is okay. But sometimes, kind of like what we talked about yesterday, it's another thing on the mental load list of things to worry about and think about. But something that I love about this verse is that God says, don't put your hope in wealth, which is so uncertain. And I think one of the themes that I've been learning about God is consistent.
Yeah.
God is faithful.
He is.
And the things that the world tell us are successful, like money or wealth or whatever it is, it's not going to be sustainable. No. It's not going to keep you. But when we trust God, and I think that's what this verse is saying, is that we can be certain of his goodness. But the other thing that I love in the second one, it says, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Yeah. Sometimes I think, and I don't know if you've experienced this, there can be a bit of a mentality that if you are a Christian, you have to be living with nothing. It's almost this idea that you have to be, which the Bible teaches us, let's be generous, let's be sacrificial. Yeah. But what this verse is actually saying is God wants us to enjoy. God wants us to celebrate. Yeah. God wants us to have fun. Yeah. But how do we do it trusting in him? How do we do it going, okay, God, you are the one who gives me that and provides me with that, not the state of my finances.
Yeah, exactly. That's such a big mindset to change as well. And you're right. The Bible's always telling us to be generous, to live within our means. I've never actually thought God wants us to enjoy. He does. He wants us to enjoy this life that he's given us and what he's blessed us with. And I think that's what he values, is the quality of our lives. Yeah. He wants us to also be happy here, but he also wants us to be on guard because he knows that the devil works as well. Yeah. But he knows that but we all know he works harder.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly what it tells me about God as well, is that he wants us to live a life of joy.
Yes.
But it comes from putting our hope in him.
Yeah.
Not putting our hope in money, not putting our hope in whatever we're waiting for. It's going, okay, I can be certain when I put my hope in God.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Oh,
Now, Jen, do you have a time where this verse has come alive in your life?
It has. So this is the recent week, and bear with me because it's another mental list.
Okay.
Like we said yesterday. Yeah. So let's start this up. I plan for our aircon to be installed. We know it's getting to summer. It's going to get hot.
Yeah.
God bless them, Melbourne. I was going to say America. Let's not go there. God bless Melbourne and our up and down weathers, our 10 seasons in one day. We need that aircon in our house. So I plan for that. And that's a large investment. Let's not go into that. But in the same week our aircon was being installed, one of our cars broke down.
No.
And that's another $1,000 gone. We're like, okay, we need a car. We need to be able to drive Chelsea around to all her social events and our social events.
Yeah.
And we need to go to church. Okay, we need the car. But then we had a plumbing issue. And we need plumbing in the house. So that's another thing to add to the list. Yeah. And then now, well, thank goodness I've done most of my Christmas shopping. Now I'm thinking, is there anyone I'm missing? That's another thing on my mental list. And so this always happens around the time when God's is reminding me, you need to be careful with your money, but you don't need to rely on it. You don't have to stress about it. Even though things are rolling up and you feel like, yep, that number's going lower and lower in the bank account, it's okay. God is always reminding me. It's a bit embarrassing being an accountant and being like, okay, I'm not very good with my money, but I'm going to say that I am because God's the one looking out for me. He's the one who's providing me at the right time. I mean, the plumbing issue, if it happened maybe 4 months ago, I wouldn't have been able to pay for it. But I know right now, even though I didn't know it was in my plan, it was in God's plan.
Yeah, it's so true. And I truly believe that God's heart for us and God's heart for, I guess, our finances is exactly what you said. It's trusting in him. It's relying on him. You know, I have had story after story and time after time of God providing for me in like crazy circumstances. So I'll share a couple of them. And here's the thing. Not everyone has these stories to share. Not everyone goes, yep, I woke up the next morning and someone gifted me money. That's not a lot of people's reality. But I think the moral of this verse and of this story is God knows, God sees, God provides. And I suppose in my life, I've had so many circumstances. I remember during COVID, prior to working here, I didn't have a job. I wasn't really working. And I couldn't get any assistance or anything like that. And basically I was like, Lord, I cannot afford to pay my car registration. I was like, there is no way I can just fork out all of that money. And I remember just being like, Lord, like I really need you to provide for me. And I struggle to pray for finances if I'm totally honest. Like it's not something I feel like I'm great at boldly praying about. But in this moment, I said, God, I really need you to help me out because I just can't. And I remember at the end of it, I was like, it was like 2 days before I had to pay it.
Oh, stressful.
And I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to work something out. I was like, I'll maybe sell something or I'll work it out. And in my mind, I was like, you know what? If God provides for me by me having to sell something, by me having to do this or this, that's okay. I was like, God provides for me. God cares for me. And I remember I kind of went to go look at doing all that. And then I got a letter in the mail being like, thank you for paying your registration. And I was like, no, what? And I still to this day have no idea how my registration got paid. Like literally zero clue. But someone, somewhere, maybe it was someone that I knew, maybe I've got no idea how it got paid for, but someone paid for it for me. And that was just like such a special reminder to me of God's heart for me. And sometimes I think when we're in those rough circumstances, and maybe you are listening today, and maybe you're just thinking, Lord, I don't know how I'm going to get through this Christmas period, through this Christmas season. You know, I know that God cares for you. I know that God's heart is for you.
100%.
And even if that doesn't look how maybe you expected it, God is faithful.
He is.
You can be certain that whether it looks how you planned it and you wished, and we spoke about it in an episode maybe a week ago where we said sometimes like restoration and all those things don't look like how we planned. But I know for a fact that God is for you.
Yeah.
And that is, if we put our hope in God, we'll find joy.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
We'll find joy.
Yeah. And at that point, you'll find that peace with God.
Yeah.
It's hard right now because finances is a physical thing.
Yeah.
It's
so true.
We are made to think that, we need to make this money. We are the ones who need to put that into our bank account. But it's not. God's always got this, and God knows this. He will provide for us, even when we can't logically think of it, because it's our logic. But God's logic is the most beautiful and most miracle-ish, beautiful. I just made that word up.
I love it. That's so great.
It's his miracle.
It is his miracle. I love this verse, 1 Timothy 6 verse 17. Command those who are rich in this present world not to be ignorant nor put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides for us with everything for our enjoyment.